right, welcome to another HSO Intermissions. I'm Johannes Müller Stosch, your music director, and today I thought it might be fun to introduce you to one of our equipment holdings, instruments that we have in our inventory, and this is our digital harpsichord, the Roland C-30. Now, why would we opt for a digital instrument when all of our other instruments are analog or acoustic? Well, the nature of harpsichords is that, they are the precursor to the modern pianos. So pianos have metal frames and that holds their tuning pretty well. But a harpsichord historically would be a wooden frame, and you would basically have to retune a harpsichord before each use. And so that is not a practical concept for us, because we usually use our harpsichord when we do our classics up close concert at the Methodist Church, for example. So in an acoustic piano, you would have to leave there for a couple of days so the harpsichord gets used, the wood gets used to the moisture, and then it would have to be retuned before each rehearsal and then for the performance. So that's one reason to go with digital instruments, because it's more maintenance free. The other one is that this particular harpsichord is not one where the sound is produced by the chip, but it's more like a CD player. Each note is kind of recorded from a real harpsichord, and so it's basically playing back what a real harpsichord sounds like. So it's much more authentic, and to most ears, you can't really tell the difference. Now, since it's basically playing back instruments, we also have a lute sound, so you could play back a lute, and then two organ sounds. So we use it for that sometimes, and also for like a glockenspiel tone that is sometimes required in orchestra. So it's very versatile. But today I want to talk mainly about the harpsichord function. It has two different harpsichords. That is a French style harpsichord that would have been appropriate for music by Rameau or Couperin, and then the Flemish style harpsichords, where the sound is perhaps a little bit more narrow, fewer overtones, and that would be more appropriate for music by J.S. Bach. So, for example, here is what the French harpsichord would sound like. Feel there's a very resonant, especially bass sound, very rich. And this is the Flemish, which I think sounds just a little bit more narrow. We'll choose a different key. So perhaps a little bit less, I wouldn't want to say rich, but just a little bit more contained. So these are the two basic sounds, and then you also have a forefoot, which is the octave above. So here is the normal sound, here is the sound above, and together they sound. Okay. And then besides that, we also have a lute sound, which real harpsichords also have. That basically is you dampen the string with cotton or with felt, and it would sound very muted. The string wouldn't ring free, but it's almost it's a plucking sound. So, for example, if you played something in 3 movements and you wanted the middle movement to be more subdued, you might choose the lute sound for the middle. Then we also have 2 organ sounds. One is sort of a flute-like organ sound. If you were playing a cantata by Bach or something recitative style by Handel, you might choose that. And if you wanted a richer organ sound, even in romantic organ works, you might choose this. these are the only two options. It's not really a digital organ, it's more like for accompanying a small ensemble, and for that, those two sounds would be pretty good. Now, I'm going to play for you the Preludium number 1 in C major by J.S. Bach. And to give you a little bit more sense of the various harpsichord sounds, I will play 1/3 of the piece with the French, then I'll go over to the Flemish style, and then I will play the rest of the piece with the Flemish and the French together. That's often done to get a richer sound. You simply use the 2 8 strings together. So here we go. This is the C major prelude. You may often hear this also as the accompaniment to the Bach-Gounod version of the Ave Maria. So it's often done in church services. So I'm going to start with French, then Flemish, then both of them. You can even tell on the release, if you listen closely, you hear sort of like a clip sound at the end, and that is a very authentic sound. When you would release a chord from a real harpsichord, the hammers would fall back on the strings, and that's the kind of sound you hear. So it's very hard to tell. I mean, even the little noises that a real harpsichord produces are sampled here. Now, what kind of music would you use a harpsichord for? Well, obviously in the works of Bach. So when we do his orchestral suites, you would use a harpsichord. Works by Handel, but even early symphonies by Haydn require a harpsichord. Mozart, the early symphonies also, oftentimes they're left out now in modern performances because it seems really strange. People associate the harpsichord with Baroque music, but even in early classical music, the harpsichord was still used. So oftentimes J.S. Bach, for example, would not stand in front of the string ensemble and have somebody play harpsichord. He would lead performances from the harpsichord, and so I like to follow that tradition. When in Holland Symphony we perform such works like the orchestral suites by Bach, that I play along and I kind of do some motions in the orchestra, so I become part of the fabric. I'm a participant and not just somebody who waves his hands through the air, but somebody who is actively involved in music making. So we're very fortunate to have this instrument, and please look for it in our future performances, especially at the Classics Up Close concert. And thank you very much for your time.